Let's move on to Lions Packers. I know that you heard my thoughts. I'd like to ask you, there's a lot of concern, this division. What the hopes that this Lions team had last year. The idea that they're going to be okay losing Ben Johnson, all of that. What is your biggest concern with the Lions offense after yesterday?
My biggest concern is expectations. I remember in Minnesota when we broke the NFL record in 1998 after we drafted Moss and Brian Billick, he goes to Baltimore after we lose the NFC Championship game. And we had some potent offenses after that, but we never got back to the level that Brian had us operating and the identity that he had as far as run pass and what we could do, our screen game. And when Brian went to Baltimore, he had to be honest, and having conversations with him was, Chris, I could never duplicate what you guys did in the players that I, acquired in Baltimore. I could never do that either. So it's not just like location, but you really have the skill set. And he really had that. Ben Johnson in Detroit, the skill set, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a tight end, and Jared Goff, who was coming from Sean McVay's system. So a lot of times people don't look at all the ingredients that Ben had to cook with. Now he's got great ingredients there in Chicago, but can he cook up the same type of meal with a young quarterback? That's why we'll be tuned in tonight. But the absence of Ben Johnson in Detroit, to me, it's huge. And I think probably the biggest effect is going to have on Johnny Morton. As a young play caller, a lot of people out there know Johnny and they're pulling for him. But to who you follow in life, just like the guy following Nick Saban down there in Alabama, he's finding out, well, they pay me a lot of money. But following someone who is really good or excellent or the best at their craft, it's hard to do. And that's what Detroit and Dan Campbell are going to have to do. They got to get a new identity. Their front, their center, their 2 guards are all new. You can't run the ball the way they ran over people the last 2 years with those new people. Their tackles and stuff are still very good. Taylor Decker, on the left side, and they got one of the best right tackles, the best tackles, best athletes in the NFL. So what's going to be my identity with this group of players? Some of them are the same, but there's a few different ones. And I think that is the key to Johnny Morton in Detroit having success and having it early in the season.
What I wanted to say there is, if they have the same ingredients, why can't they make the same meal? But you just went through some of the changes that they do have, including big ones with the trenches. But, maybe it's like, don't try to use the same recipe, find a new one, right? You're saying they have to find sort of a new identity. Will they be able to do this when the Packers are looking like what they're looking like? And I do think, I wonder how much of the attitude that we saw, I know it's Dan Campbell, but how much of the confidence that this team had last year was in the fact that anytime they got down last year, Ben had a little something. He'd had a little paprika in his pocket and he'd go deep and he'd pull it out at the right time. The mastery, right, of using that play, whatever it is, that magic moment where he's got, one of his wide receivers throwing the ball, a trick play, whatever it is, they knew they had that. And even if they leave the recipe book for Morton, who was there last year, and there is continuity and all of that, that's what the play calling is, what makes you a master, right?
I think the play calling and being familiar with your personnel. Like what Detroit is building wasn't built overnight. Remember 3 seasons ago when they beat Green Bay to finish the season? Remember that when Green Bay had to win that game and Detroit went to Green Bay and beat them? That was the beginning of building this monster, besides the press conference when Dan talked about we're going to be biting ankles and everything. Really, no, we're going to be biting ankles. So they built this up. When you have Aaron Glenn and he takes things out the door, not only just the defensive scheme, but he takes people out the door. Ben Johnson, he goes out the door. He goes in the division. So there's going to be an adjustment, and the toughest game playing in Lambeau Field against that crowd week number 1. So let's just not jump off the Detroit bandwagon, but they were doing things at a record-breaking pace the last 2 years, a spectacular fashion, and just got tripped up last year with all the injuries. It got caught up to them. But did their window close when Ben left and they got upset in the playoffs last year? That's going to be a real question in 5 or 6 weeks if they're not looking like the Detroit offensively that we've seen the last several years.
What I remember of the game that you're talking about is it was like Rogers goodbye, right? It was like the last game with Aaron, the way that they looked, like
Yep.
I remember that part, and that's enlightening. But then I'm thinking, like, how do that? You're saying let's not write them off. There's this fear that, like, they're going to become the post Super Bowl winning Eagles who lost their coordinators, or the 2017 Falcons when that happened.
Mhm.
How do they not become that?
Well, I think that Dan Campbell, what he's established there, and especially with Jared Goff as the quarterback, Jared's been through some adversity, and they're a talented football team. And you can't lose in Green Bay because they've dominated the division and just throw your season away. Oh, man, your favorite, but good check though. See where are we true to the talent that we have, not someone who's calling plays offensively and defensively. And I think if Johnny and that offensive coaching staff, if they get back to, okay, how can we create a new identity? I don't have all those trick plays. And
Mhm.
even if he does a trick play, everyone's going to say, oh, now he's trying to copy what he's doing.
Mhm.
So, Johnny, just be yourself, whatever that's going to be. And you need to create an identity as far as the Detroit Lions before we get out of the month of September, what your identity is going to be. Because with the schedule and the teams we have in the North, Chicago, the Vikings, and of course, you saw the Packers, and the Packers are only going to get better. Their young receivers are only going to get better. If Love stays consistent, that defense by Halloween, it's gonna be ugly. Like it's gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be ugly. So that division will be so exciting until week number 18.
Losing
So exciting.
Ragnow, seemingly a bigger deal. Goff didn't look super comfortable out there, but as you're looking at these odds here, I mean, the Packers
Mhm.
Super Bowl odds tied for fifth longest at plus 1200. Who do you like? Who do you like most in the North? I know we got two teams to go tonight, but who do you like right now?
Well, the team that I like the most in the North, my Minnesota Vikings.
Tell me more.
And when I sat down with Justin Jefferson and KO before the season, I told him, excuse me, I told him this love for the Vikings it's so deep now, Kay, that I gotta cheer for a Michigan man at quarterback because my love for the purple supersedes my hate for Michigan. So
uh,
what they
yeah.
did, interior offense and defensive line, the ugly stuff that people don't want to talk about.
Hmm.
I do believe that Flores now can play not with smoke and mirrors, but he can play with force. We can take people out of their running game. We're going to continue to create turnovers. We're going to have a bunch of sacks. And KO, by the time we get to Thanksgiving, I think JJ McCarthy and the Minnesota fans will be well acquainted in that offense because I've seen him do it with a lot less. And I think a lot of our faith is in who KO is, what he's done with quarterbacks who have less talent, less athletes, less arm strength, and they have put up great numbers since he's been there. And the offensive personnel is excellent, especially when we get Jordan Addison back after this short suspension
Hmm.
for an incident that he was involved in a couple years ago.
They have it all going on. My take on this team all offseason was you have no reason to not win the Super Bowl because you weren't interested in Aaron Rodgers. So that must mean you have so much faith in JJ McCarthy for being the one that can win the big game. Okay. Believe in
Yeah, we
KC,
we
believe in
couldn't
the
do we
defense.
couldn't do Aaron Rodgers. We couldn't do. We had already done Brett Favre, and that
Yeah.
that took us a while
Understood.
to recover from. We couldn't do the Aaron Rodgers.
You
Quick
could
way.
have, but you didn't. And I thought that meant tremendous faith in this team, in the
Mm-hmm.
young JJ McCarthy, who people are resistant to buying in until they see something, which they might, of course, see against the Chicago defense tonight. You spoke to Justin. He has Justin. I'm sure that's where a little bit of your confidence in him comes from. But when it comes to JJ McCarthy, what is Hall of Famer, legend Cris Carter seeing that's letting you buy in on the Michigan man?
Well, the thing about it is, met his family too in the off season. He's had great support around him. He's gone to great programs, went to a great high school program, played a very, very competitive schedule from a national standpoint. I mean, he went to Michigan. And yes, I wish that he would have thrown the ball more at Michigan, but they were winning games. And the number one stat for a quarterback is do you win and do you lose? And being a national champion there, I do believe with the scouting department seeing enough as far as arm strength, overall athletic ability, And I'm going to compare him to someone else. I'm going to compare him to Sam Darnold. And without the scars, because Sam Darnold, he had pretty much won at every level, was very, very good, highly recruited in high school, went to USC, Banner, supposed to be up for the Heisman Trophy. A lot of positive things happened until the Jets. And a lot of this league, Kay, you know, it's not about how good you are. It's about where you go and what type of support system they have around you, because this will make or break your career. So he doesn't have all that scar tissue around him, throwing interceptions and his home fans booing him, people burning jerseys and all those things that young quarterbacks and young players go through. So I do believe the supporting cast, what they put around him and what he's doing to bring himself up to speed in his second year, which is like his first year, it's going to be exciting to see. Now, these road games, especially starting off, like you got to try to get through. You got to try to get your team on the winning bus. But it's not going to be by chuck down Charlie. They're going to be throwing the ball down the field. They're going to be very, very creative about it. And that's the faith that, as you're a football fan, that you have to have in KO and seeing what he's done with some of the personnel that's come through that building from a quarterback's and a talent standpoint.
I think they're going to throw. I think you're right. I'm looking at FanDuel Sportsbook right now. JJ McCarthy, first start in the NFL, 220 and a half yards. Over under.
220, Chicago's defense, Monday night. I'm going to go under that, but I'm going to go with a good game because I'm expecting Jefferson to get about 125 of that.
Jefferson's line for receiving yards is disrespectful, by the way. 77 and a half for JJ.
Well, let's get on. He was looking good. Me, him, and Larry Fitzgerald were working out this offseason. Larry's son, Devin, he's going to be going to Notre Dame in 2026 in January, enrolling there. So JJ looked very, very good. We know he missed about 20 practices, but talking to some people that I know in the building, and Keenan McCarter is really ready for him to have an amazing year. And just another little nugget. I know he's facing a 2-game suspension, but fantasy, grab Jordan Addison. I mean, Keenan McCardle cannot talk highly enough. When I'm trying to talk about JJ, he said, hey, let me tell you about Jordan. Let me tell you what he's getting ready to do this year. And he's so quiet. He's such the anti-receiver diva type. He's so quiet that people would not recognize him. But his talent level, I do believe, will stand out, especially with the young quarterback, JJ, and the receiver, JJ, getting a lot of attention. Jordan Addison, huge year for the Purple.
I went to 18 training camps, saw a lot of touchdowns. Emeka Egbuka, one of them, but I will say the Jordan Addison, I know we'll get to Emeka here in a second, but Jordan Addison caught one while I was at camp and JJ was back on the field. It stuck with me, this Jordan Addison touchdown. So JJ McCarthy's in good hands. Excited to see. You think they're going to throw a ton, which I love. I hear Justin Jefferson's in store for a big night, which nobody's surprised by, but we're certainly looking forward to. And then on the other side, the Bears are full of questions. Full of questions. It is the unveiling, Chris. It is. We just talked about Ben Johnson. So before we take a break here, let's dig into the Chicago side. You so eloquently have spoken. So like Caleb's got it all. But I remember you telling me, like, we just need to see consistency. We need to see consistency week to week. What are you expecting to see, as you know B-Flow is going to blitz him all night long?
Well, the number one thing from the time he's been in the building, that Ben Johnson's been a prick. And with a lot of these quarterbacks, and you hear Tom Brady talk about it just a little bit, but Bill Belichick, not hard for us to understand, he was such a prick to Tom Brady. And Tom just developed this just toughness that it's hard to now, especially in today's age where you can't hit the quarterbacks, you can't practice, like it's hard to make them tough. It's hard to put them in enough tough situations. So I do believe that Ben Johnson, his whole tough approach to Caleb from the first press conference, which Caleb was there, I do believe it's going to be very, very different than any type of coaching he's gotten in college. And that prolonged holding on to the ball, that's going to be over. And I believe that Ben Johnson is going to change that immediately. And when you take that away, because when people were evaluating his talent, they were like, oh, yeah, he makes plays. That's not a good trait unless you're Michael Vick, unless you're Lamar. Like these guys aren't. Like Shador, he held on to the ball too long in college. Caleb held on to the ball too long in college. It's a bad trait to have coming into the National Football League. I believe once we're able to cut that down, you're going to be able to see some of the special things that he can do with his arm talent. And I do believe he's going to develop into a great, great leader, because I do believe he's got it in him. He's got that type of charisma that people will follow him.
Cris, you're a busy man. You're a Hall of Famer. You're living your life in Florida. I know you're watching the Viking side. There was a piece that was put out by by a man named Tyler Dunn. Okay, it's called House of Dysfunction, and it was dropped recently. And there's 3 parts to it, and it is all about Caleb Williams and maybe his part in what didn't happen as far as last year with work habits and leadership. Like you're saying, there was a part in it where there was an interaction where a coach is trying to coach him. Allegedly, reportedly, he walked away from coaches, so that wasn't even the adjective that was used. And then how that translates to the field. To go back in the past is a tough one for me right now, and I just want to be excited about the Bears. But is it fair to say that whatever might have happened, the accountability sort of been is what you're saying? Like, why should this be a non-story, a non-issue if it were to be?
Well, Kay, we know the truth. And a lot of times, even as reporters, and we have relationships with these guys, sometimes we just try to let a little bit out because we don't really think that because they're such professional people that their private life should be out there. But when you are immature, when you don't have the work habits of a pro, when you're not the CEO of the Chicago Bears the way you're supposed to be the CEO, these types of things are going to get out the building. Like you can only protect them so much. And I say this all the time. If there's some smoke, something in the wood pile typically is on fire. And myself as a young professional, I had problems, and coaches finally got me to listen in a certain way and saying things a certain way. Like there are certain voices in this league that will change your life. And if he's smart enough to realize what the opportunity here with this franchise, a landmark franchise, Chicago Bears, being the quarterback, the first one to throw for over 4,000 yards this season, and Ben Johnson, with all that money they gave him, a lot of times when you see that guarantee as a player, you're like, okay, he's going to be here. Let me not try to buck the system. And I hope that that was the marriage from the first time they met at the press conference and what they've communicated since then, that if you're a great player, submit your talent to the coach, and the coach will bring the greatness out of you. And that's what he's dependent on with Ben Johnson. Submit your talent every single day, and we're going to get the best out of Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears, what they drafted and their whole expectations for him when they drafted him.
Well said. We're going to take a short TV break. We're talking to the legend, Cris Carter. We need to get to, this is why you should subscribe to the YouTube, everybody, because we're going to get into the Giants and what should happen right now. Cris, you're amazing. This Giant situation, it makes me look at, I don't even know who to go to and say, is this you? Is this you? I was a little like unenthused. Russell completed less than 50% of his passes, no touchdowns in this loss to a powerhouse, to the Commanders, who, like, we have no questions about, right? I'd like you to listen to Brian Daboll together with me about the quarterback situation after the game.
Will you consider starting Jackson next week?
Yeah, look, we're going to get home, Pat. We're going to look at our game. Collectively, we all got to do better.
Is it safe to say that Russell is still your starter?
Yeah, I mean, we're just right here after the game. I got confidence. We got to do better around overall.
Non-committal. If you're him, why are you shaking your head?
I mean, that is not what you want. If I'm the quarterback, Russell Wilson, that's not what I want. And then it takes me back to draft day. And this is one of the reasons why they didn't draft Shedeur. Because of things just like this. Could you imagine if Shedeur was in New York? Now, they still would have had a veteran to start off the season. Imagine the Shedeur Sanders questions. And with Daboll and the general manager, with their necks being on the line this year, a make or break year, like, they don't want to answer those questions. So they'll probably tell you, yeah, Jackson Dart, yeah, we liked him a lot more. But why would you be questioning Russell when you know his resume after one game? And Russell didn't play bad enough that you think about yanking him. So for me, the Giants, you're talking about a team in disarray, like no direction, because Jackson Dart is not ready to play, not with that offense. And shoot, I would be really concerned about my star receiver. That's what I really would be concerned about, because he's the best player on the offense, and I would be concerned about getting him happy. And yesterday, he was not happy. And when we are not happy, we will make people's lives miserable. So they got real issues in New York. We've been through free agency, we've been through the draft, we've been through training camp, and they haven't gotten any better. And that's discouraging after week number 1. That's not an overreaction.
What should they do here?
Where are you going with Russell Wilson? Like, what do you think that Russell maxed out at this stage of career with those offensive personnel? What do you think? I mean, how many games do you think you can win going against Washington, Dallas, and Philly? Like, realistically, because when you sit down with the owner, what kind of lie do you tell him? Oh, we can win 6, we can win 7, oh, we can win 8. Like, no. Like, you'd be like, no, I don't think we can win 8 games. Well, okay, then let's draft a young kid. Let's put him in there, get him the reps, and let him play. Because if you're not making the playoffs, and or you just drafted a kid you traded up for, and you don't believe that he's got enough to play right now, well, you drafted the wrong guy. But it's obviously Russell is a Band-Aid. It's obvious Jameis is there still as a Band-Aid in case someone gets hurt. Like, you need to play Jackson Dart, because that's the only thing going to give the fans, the general manager and the head coach, any encouragement about the future, because they drafted.
Gosh, I don't know. This is why I'm so, I don't know.
You can disagree with me.
No, I don't. I don't
expert.
know. I think your main point is, what did they do? Right? Like, where did they pin themselves into where this is, I know this. I don't want to put, just like I wouldn't with Shador, if they took him, I would not want to put him out there right now. I think the offensive line looked horrible yesterday. I think I don't want Jackson to have any problem with his development. I think the schedule is brutal. And I look at Daniel Jones yesterday, and I know it's one game, and we're thriving with a flourishing with an offensive line, looking like he did not.
Yeah. Some of those things can happen, but Jackson Dart has more passing ability than Daniel had coming into the NFL. Like, he was a better college football player. So to compare them to be in the same situation, I'm going to put you in the situation of, and they're not this guy, but I got to put you in this guy into the equation, Troy Aikman.
Okay.
Man, he got banged up. They put him out there, and guess what? The Troy Aikman came up out of there. So if this guy's supposed to be a player, he will come up out of it. Like, he will turn the franchise around if he's that guy. If he's not that guy, then the same thing happens to all these other quarterbacks. But we got to give him a chance to be able to fight, to be special. That's why you draft a guy in the top 10. Like, you don't draft him to sit, not in this day and age. Not given the opposition. I don't know.
Part of me is like, Chris, part of me is like, put in Jameis. No?
Why? What's Jameis going to do?
A spark, complete more than 50% of his passes. Make Malik Neighbors happy. Use a guy who, I look at Malik Neighbors. I don't see you totally, you're a Hall of Fame, but I see that's who I think is most like you. Like, I want to make.
He's talented.
Yeah, I want to make him do his thing. I don't know what the answer is, but it's a tough. Okay, based off what you're saying, you brought up Shador a bunch in this. I haven't asked you about Shador, but you're bringing up, should they have drafted Shador? Based on what we saw even just yesterday.
Dayball was worried about his job, so no. And they were worried about the publicity that Shador should have, and he didn't do well in the interviews with them. So 3 no's. They shouldn't have done it, but they were also trying to avoid yesterday. Because instead of Jackson Dart, it would have been more explosive and polarizing if they would have been Shador. So they actually did accomplish something there, but they still were trying to draft a quarterback. It's not like they went, Abdul Carter, oh, something, we believe he's a higher ranked player. Yeah, he is. He definitely is. But no, we don't need a quarterback. We're going a different direction. Oh, no,
Yeah.
we're getting Carter, and we still need a quarterback that we believe is ranked higher than Shador. So if you're going to trade up and make that, then you got to play.
Chris.
Like you have to play. Everyone is consumed with this. Oh man, Patrick Mahomes, he sat, and then we let him play at the end of the year. They don't have Alex Smith there. Now,
Why isn't I have such a why isn't Russell the guy? Why, like, not with the Broncos, not with Pittsburgh, not like, why is it, shouldn't he be the guy? Isn't that why we did this? Why isn't he the guy? Why isn't it Russell Wilson?
Russell has hit his genetic ceiling. All right. He is bumping his head on his genetic ceiling, which he's overcome the height. He's overcome that. But Russell is not a great passer of the football, short and intermediate. He's got a great long ball, and he's a very good leader, and people respect him and everything. But if he don't have a bunch of killers and stuff around him, you know, like they never had a great passing attack in Seattle. I remember Doug Baldwin them got mad at me because I said they were an appetizer, not the entree, because they had beast mode in the defense and Pete Carroll. So all the receivers got mad at me, especially Doug Baldwin, but you guys are. Like, no one's put no great game plan worrying about Seattle's passing attack. And that's no personal indictment on the receivers. It's their passing game is not a great passing game. He's never been anywhere where they could throw the ball great. Like, where have we been under that preconceived idea that, oh man, he's great at throwing the ball?
Because
like,
when
they
you
were
have
pretty good. They were pretty good at NC State. They were not great at Wisconsin. They were better than what they had, but Wisconsin ain't got no pro quarterbacks. So we're under this illusion that, hey man, Russ has piled up all these numbers and everything. Most of those numbers are mediocre as far as.
So we're now questioning whether or not, like, I'm questioning, is Russell Wilson a good quarterback in my head? Like, based on, like,
at this point, at this point in his career, that's a real question. It's not, you're not questioning his career, you're questioning today. Like, this is about what you can do today. This is not what about your highlight tape. Hey, bring me back your highlight tapes. Let me see them. Over the last 8 years, what you, no, baby. This is about what can you do in the next 8 days. That's what this is about.
I got a couple things I need to squeeze in with you. I know, my mind's in a pretzel about some of the things. So I love talking to you and getting your insight. I do want to take it back to Friday night with these Chiefs. They lose to the Chargers. The Chargers kicked the Chiefs' butt in Brazil to kick off their season. On the Chiefs side, no Rashee Rice, which they weren't potentially planning for in the offseason. If that comes down, they don't have him for these 6 games, 5 more. Now Xavier Worthy gets hurt 3 snaps in. Huge part of their offense. Of course, you could sort of tell that was, they had to go back to dinking and dunking without him. How much trouble are the Chiefs in, Chris?
Well, the Chiefs have real problems. And I do believe that the curse of losing the Super Bowl, like, I don't believe they're going to win 13 games this year, but I still believe that they'll be in the playoffs and they're going to be a tough team. But when you see their marquee players, when you see one of their defenders calling out Chris Jones for lack of integrity, lost his contained line, trying to freelance to try to win a game, end up losing the game, allows Herbert to gain all those yards getting outside the pocket. Because when you're winning, it's a good little deodorant to keep the stench off of you. But there have been things going on around Kansas City, and the lack of development of the receivers has been one of them with Patrick Mahomes. But when you start getting people calling people out and telling them to do your damn job, because that's what he told them to do, I'm sorry, I'm worried about Kansas City. I'm worried about Travis Kelce, because guess what used to didn't happen? Rice being out, Worthy hurt, Kelce could take over the game. He can't dominate no more. Like, I remember at the stage of my career where it was like, I got to be honest with myself. I think I'm going to be a little more possession than trying to take over this game. Like, at some point, it's a reality that we all face. And don't give me that, he's in the best shape ever. I saw it. He was down here in Boca training, him and his fiance living over in Royal Palm and everything. That's a hard lifestyle to keep up with. Okay? Like, that's hard to keep up with, Kate. And I do believe that all these things, it's going to be hard for them to regain their focus and be one of the elite teams. I believe there's several teams in the NFL that are better than them, and they're going to really struggle until they get Rice back week number 7.
Let's say it's some Ravens or Ravens, Bills, one in the AFC. Let's say 1 and 2, 1A. Who's 3? Is it Chargers? Who's 3 in the AFC?
Right now, I would still say, I mean, the
I
Chargers
think it might
just
be
beat
the
them. They're not used to
Chargers.
beating. I mean, it could be the Chargers because the head-to-head, a neutral site, but let me go. Can I take Denver?
Okay, yeah, you can.
Okay, I'll take Denver. Denver's going to be somewhere in there.
Cris Carter, you're a legend. Who wins tonight? Vikings, bye.
Let's go Vikings. Win on a late field goal. We win by 4 points. So we're up by 1. We drive it down. JJ makes a big catch. We kick the field goal. Win by 4.
I didn't think I was going to get all that. You're an absolute legend. Appreciate you. And congrats to Ohio State, by the way. Looking good.
Oh, let's do that because we got other stuff to talk about.
We do. Our show's over, though. Cris, I appreciate you. Amazing insight.